In the concluding section of our whole course, one of the topics, one of the emerging topics, one of the newer areas of marketing today is this our better understanding of consumer behavior. We have had discussion before about consumer behavior as it applies to conventional marketing or that still guides most of the marketing strategies of today, which looks at consumer behavior in terms of cognitive factors, affective factors and conative factors, which prompts us to develop marketing strategies that appeal to the rational and the emotional sides of our perceptions, through which actually we create our marketing campaigns, our marketing communication strategies and so on. And in that, even when we look at emotion or those affective factors, we normally rely on triggers that will predictably cause certain types of emotional reactions. So we have believed that if a celebrity role model can talk about an intangible benefit that celebrity can appeal to at the emotional level and can add purchase incentives beyond rational cost benefit analysis. So even in that consideration, we are looking at emotional reaction that can be predicted based on many studies of the past or theories, statistical inferences and so on. But today, because of groundbreaking research from the behavioral economists, we understand that human beings are not always rational. Not only they are often irrational, but they are predictably irrational. So today's session will be looking at that. Therefore, what is it that we need to understand more about consumer behavior that should guide our marketing strategy in the future, how we can develop better marketing strategies based on this understanding, and a good part of today's session will be based on work of people like Dan Ariely and so on. So standard economics relies heavily on this assumption that people and therefore consumers are rational, that consumers are rational. And therefore, standard economics assumes that people are fully aware of all the options they have and can always and consistently rank their options in accordance with their preferences and always choose the option they like best. That means if we break it up in parts, that when consumers act with full information about buying a washing machine, we say that they have therefore full external knowledge. We also in standard economics, which is based on our concept of homo economicus, that means we are talking about human beings who are rational, on which actually these whole economic theories are based. So there we assume that just as consumers act with full information, therefore full external knowledge, if they don't have enough external knowledge about the washing machine, then they will seek that information, and that is actually based on which this need sensing, search for information, evaluation of alternatives, this whole string that we have discussed before of the purchase process is based on this assumption that people will seek external knowledge. Consumers will try to find out more if they don't have enough information to their satisfaction. We also assume in this model that consumers have known preferences. So they will know that they will like to have top loading washing machine or front loading, based on the space that they may have in their bathroom or the previous experience of their neighbors. So whatever may be those are different ways people are influenced, that we have also discussed before. But today, for today's discussion, we are therefore saying that consumers act with full external information and consumers act on the basis of known preferences. Those preferences can be influenced, which have been part of marketing strategy. And then we also assume that consumers choose the best option based on this full external knowledge, full internal knowledge. As marketers, we can strategize how to fill the gap here, how to create influences here, so that ultimately customer can make a rational choice. And we always like that this best option is our option. So the entire marketing strategy is based on that. Based on this knowledge, external and internal factors, we offer you the best alternative. This is how we have always framed. To understand how people use this external information and internal information, we have developed models like conjoint analysis or clustered analysis and so on. But all of those are always based on the assumption that consumers act rationally. That means no matter what set of choices are put before a customer, he or she will know how to rank the choices from best to worst and act accordingly. So consumers choose the best option. I mean, this best is, our whole marketing strategy is to make best is equal to us. our farm, right. This is all the entire marketing strategy is about. So, we try to become the highest ranked choice by price, by feature, by both, and so on and so forth. Therefore, we have this logically consistent theory of consumer behavior, and that theory can be used to make predictions. And the fact is that these models often correspond to actual behavior, and that is why they have endured for such a long time. That is why we still study consumer behavior as an interesting intersection between psychology and management science. And we look at consumer behavior more as a science rather than an art, because we feel that human beings are predictably rational and they will make rational choices. But the fact is that that even though these models often correspond to actual behavior, but we have some problem with this often. The word often means that it is not always so, and in reality we have a lot of evidence that not only we make irrational choices, but we are predictably irrational. In fact, if people made rational choices, then many industries like the tobacco industry or the chewing tobacco, which is known in India as gutka, or in this part, or many other products, services, would not have survived in the marketplace. People go for fast food in spite of knowing all the problems related to high salt, high fat, high usage of preservatives and taste enhancers and so on and so forth. Because we have always offered incentives through conventional marketing, where these rational information have been ranked lower than the rational information about convenience, about trendiness, about style, about symbol of modernity and so on. The reason due to which people have left their ethnic traditional food, which were quite time tested, and have opted for these so-called fast food and soft drinks and so on and so forth, even in interior villages. Even at the so-called bottom of the pyramid. Now, of course, we are not discussing today about that irrationality, because marketers have understood that part of the irrationality and how to, even though it is not exactly ethical as we have discussed before, even though those are the parts of marketing that are well criticized and new concepts like macro marketing are therefore emerging. But what we want to discuss today is that because people are irrational in random ways, or rather they are not irrational in random ways, because if they were irrational in random ways, then they would have, we would have been able to come to some kind of distribution which we understand, because then the irrationality, the random part of would have cancelled each other, and we would have come up with some model through which we can predict the rational behavior. But in psychology, the work done by behavioral economists and other psychologists, well portrayed in that book, which I would like to refer, which is in fact, as I will show at the end of the presentation, is available on the on YouTube, and Dan Ariely's lecture on predictably irrational. You can see many examples there that we are often irrational in similar and predictable ways, and as a result irrationality does not cancel out and therefore cannot be ignored when devising our marketing strategies. And that is why it is important that we insert these understandings in our current concepts to come up with new marketing strategies. Few additional points we know from about the concept of bounded rationality from Harvard Simon's very famous work, well studied in organization behavior, that when human beings in an organization make decisions, then they don't go for an exhaustive collection of facts, and they don't go for an exhaustive analysis to come up with the most rational, the most analyzed solution. But it has been seen that people take or adopt at an individual level and more so at a group level a decision which is satisficing. This concept of satisficing can be studied. It's quite an important concept, and therefore particularly in B2B marketing today, from our understanding of this predictable irrationality and this bounded rationality, we can develop good strategies in marketing. We have to understand that customer will not have often, while buying specialty products or buying high value consumer capital goods, machines, infrastructure, facilities and so on, enough time to go through and collect all the facts, and they will take the first satisficing solution. One of the good marketing ways, in a virtuous way, not in a manipulative, deceptive way, to provide the opportunity for the customer to choose your product or services as the satisficing solution because of this bounded rationality factor, is to rely on reputation, which we have discussed before. So, reputation based marketing. We have earlier known that brand is a way that becomes a brand is a shortcut to arrive at the satisficing solution because of this bounded rationality phenomenon. But we know that if you actually develop a customer advocacy position, where we build our preferences, rational or cognitive factors as well as affective factors, if this can be done based on what we have earlier shown as kind of hidden or not immediately visible, or it's a kind of an overarching perception about your offering based on reputation capital. We have discussed before that how reputation is built based on your human capital, that means the competence of your people, the competence of your organization, as well as certain types of structural capital and intellectual capital. We have discussed that how you build therefore this reputation capital. But the point we are trying to make is that reputation based marketing is, because of this bounded rationality factor, can be a good way of creating a good marketing strategy. The bounded willpower, that even when we know what is best for us, we do succumb to temptations and make bad choices. An understanding of this bounded willpower issue has become very important when we want to develop today cause related marketing. Where we want to persuade people to give up some addictive habits. So in this part of the world, if you want to build a campaign against, say, chewing tobacco or gutka or pan masala or all those types of bad substances, then we have to strategize for a cause related marketing. We have to understand this whole issue about bounded willpower. And also this whole point about bounded self-interest is a counter to this bounded willpower. So that is why a good way to strategize against people falling prey to adverse choices, unhealthy choices, socially destructive choices, one can rely on this other good understanding from the irrationality side, is this what we call predictably unselfish behavior. Fortunately, this is true, and that is why perhaps we still have hope for the humankind. And there are some powerful depictions of that today, and one must understand these phenomena to develop good marketing strategy for the future, like the open source movement, which cannot be immediately explained by the conventional or traditional economic thoughts, because here people do give up economic benefits and provide labor of love to create intellectual property accessible to all, that can benefit the development, cause the development of more intellectual property. So the study of this whole area of open source, open innovation, that can be explained by bounded self-interest, and perhaps in marketing term can be, and some authors have related that this phenomena to the human need for reputation, the human need for recognition, the human need for self-actualization, the higher levels of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so those aspects today cannot be ignored, and in devising marketing strategies today, one will have to look at this whole issue of ecosystems. In fact, collaborative competition, a paradoxical term which integrates two apparently opposite concepts, can be seen at play in particularly high technology industries like semiconductors or information communication technology products and services, where people, large companies, small companies, give up their immediate gain to build an ecosystem, because often today marketing struggle is not between product and product, but between platform and platform, which means one kind of ecosystem with another kind of ecosystem. Because today's complex markets are such that it is very difficult to win by yourself. So there are famous marketing strategy cases like the VHS versus Betamax in video recording, VTR or video cassette recording, where Betamax, which was rationally technologically superior, gave way to the dominance of VHS, because the VHS companies who were developing on that basis, they created an ecosystem which was far more powerful. We have seen the same thing happening in mobile phone market, where the GSM ecosystem won over most of the other competing systems and created a global dominance, again because of this collaborative competition situation, building of ecosystem. At that time, therefore, there were interesting concepts which you can look for on the internet. There were interesting articles like spider versus spider. That means one type of ecosystem competing against other kind of ecosystem to develop these strategies. But today, this C2C, consumer to consumer marketing, particularly when it is a cause related marketing, is an important consideration, because it is based on this search for reputation, recognition, belonging, need of esteem, need of prestige, need of self-actualization. In fact, the whole success of Facebook or Orkut or all these social media fora can be attributed to an evolved version of these concepts, and they must therefore become part of our marketing strategy. The learning from other people's mistakes, your own mistakes, sharing of that knowledge around, and use of standard marketing techniques for cause related marketing using these tools and using these understanding have actually already given us great successes, like the battle against AIDS or other similar deadly diseases worldwide. We are predictably irrational, but understanding that can give us benefit to develop our or rather evolve our standard marketing and consumer behavior models using that understanding. I will recommend that you look at material on this book and Dan Ariely's presentations available on YouTube, and supplement today's session and think how those concepts can be used for better marketing strategy, particularly when it comes to cause related marketing, social marketing that we have discussed before. Thank you.